you are wasting your money. Seriously. If your check engine light is on, and you're just throwing parts at it or paying a shop $100 just to tell you what the code is, you are wasting time and money. I'm going to show you a 5-minute fix that costs less than $10 and will solve one of the most common reasons that light comes on. What's up, everyone? You know the deal. That little orange light pops up on your dash, the check engine light, and your stomach just drops. The immediate thought is, oh no, this is going to be expensive. But the truth is, a lot of the time, the fix is unbelievably simple. It's a part called the MAF sensor or the mass airflow sensor. And before you replace it, you almost always just need to clean it. You're driving, and your car feels sluggish. Maybe your gas mileage has suddenly gone down the drain, or when you stop at a light, the engine idles rough, almost like it wants to stall. And then, there it is, that little icon that looks like an engine that it's mocking you. Most people panic and go straight to Google or head right to a mechanic. But before you do that, you need to know why this happens. It's like baking a cake. Too much flour, and it's dry. Too much water, and it's soup. That's the MAF sensor's job. It sits right after your air filter and measures the mass, the actual weight, of the air going into the engine. It has these tiny, delicate wires or plates that are heated up. As air flows over them, they cool down, and the computer measures how much electrical current is needed to keep them at a constant temperature. That measurement tells the computer, in real time, exactly how much air the engine is sucking in. The challenge is that these delicate wires get absolutely covered in grime. Think about everything your engine breathes in: dust, pollen, oil vapor that gets sucked back through the crankcase ventilation system, even just tiny bits of dirt that sneak past the air filter. Over time, that stuff coats the MAF sensor's heating element. When those wires are coated, the sensor can't measure the air flow correctly. It thinks less air is coming in than there actually is. The result? The computer adds too little fuel, your engine runs lean, you lose power, your idle gets shaky, and most importantly, your car's diagnostic system sees a reading that's way out of range from what it expects, and it throws the code. The check engine light comes on. The solution is often not replacement, but a simple, gentle, specialized cleaning. Let's get a little more specific about where this thing is located and what you need. First, the location. The MAF sensor is almost always found on the air intake tube between your air filter box and the throttle body of the engine. Think of it as the gatekeeper of the air intake. On most cars, it's a small, rectangular plastic piece plugged into the side of the big, black rubber or plastic tube that runs from your air filter. It's pretty easy to spot. You're looking for that electrical plug. Now, what do you need for this job? The shopping list is short, and this is where people make a mistake. You absolutely cannot use WD-40, brake cleaner, or any other random solvent. You need one thing, and one thing only: mass airflow sensor cleaner. It comes in a spray can, it's cheap, and it's specifically formulated to evaporate quickly and leave zero residue. It's safe for the plastic parts and the sensing elements. Materials checklist. Can of MAF sensor cleaner. This is non-negotiable. Phillips head or flathead screwdriver, or sometimes a 7mm or 8mm socket to loosen the clamp on the air intake tube. Pliers, sometimes, to pinch and remove certain hose clamps. A small screwdriver, usually a Phillips, or a security Torx bit to unbolt the sensor itself. Maybe a paper towel, but only for cleaning the outside, plastic body of the sensor, never the wires. Step 1. Disconnect the power. This is crucial. You never want to work on any electrical components with power running through them. You have two options here. Disconnect the negative battery terminal. Use a wrench, usually at 10mm or 13mm, to loosen the nut on the negative, minus symbol, post of your car battery. Pull the terminal off and tuck it away from the battery so it can't accidentally touch. This is the safest way to ensure all power is off and also serves the purpose of resetting your car's computer, which will clear the check engine light once the problem is fixed. Step 2. Locate and disconnect the sensor. Find the MAF sensor on your air intake. You'll see the electrical connector. Most connectors have a clip or a small push tab you need to press or slide to release the harness. Be gentle, don't just yank it. Once the harness is unplugged, move to the next step. Step 3. Remove the sensor from the air intake tube. The sensor is usually held into the plastic housing of the intake tube by two small Phillips head screws. Sometimes, if it's a newer car, They might be security torque screws, which are a little more annoying, but you can usually find the bit at any auto parts store. Carefully use your screwdriver to remove these screws. Keep them safe. Once the screws are out, the sensor housing, the whole rectangular plastic piece, should pull straight out of the air intake tube. Pull it out slowly and gently. Now you have the sensor in your hand. Take a good look at it. Inside the hole where the air flows through, you will see the critical components. 1 or 2 tiny wires, or sometimes a small disc-shaped element. These are the parts that are gunked up and need cleaning. They look incredibly fragile because they are incredibly fragile. This is not a part you want to poke, scrub, or even breathe on too hard. Step 4. The cleaning. This is the main event. Grab your can of MAF sensor cleaner. Hold the sensor at arm's length, or even better, wear some safety glasses, because this cleaner sprays out fast. You're going to spray the delicate elements that do not touch them. Hold the can about 6 to 8 inches away and give the element, the wires, the plate, whatever sensing element you see, a few generous bursts of the cleaner. You will likely see dark gunk washing off. Spray from several angles to ensure you get every surface of the wires or plate. Be thorough, let the liquid drip off. Wait about 10 seconds, and then give it a second, very generous round of spraying. This chemical is designed to blast the contaminants off using the pressure of the spray and the solvent itself. You don't need any scrubbing. If you try to scrub, you will destroy the sensor and turn your cheap fix into an expensive new part. Step 5. Let it dry. This is the part that requires patience, but it's critical. The cleaner must completely evaporate before you put the sensor back in the car. The good news is that MAF cleaner evaporates extremely fast. You should wait at least 15 to 20 minutes to be absolutely sure. Let it air dry completely. The total absence of any moisture or solvent residue is essential for the sensor to work accurately. Step 6. Reinstall and reconnect. Once the sensor is bone dry, reinstall it in the reverse order. Gently place the sensor back into the air intake tube housing. Make sure it seats fully. Put the 2 tiny screws back in and tighten them gently. Not over-tighten. You should hear or feel a definitive click, which tells you the plug is seated and locked in. Give it a gentle tug to make sure it's secure. If you disconnected the negative battery terminal, reconnect it to the battery post and tighten the nut securely. Step 7. The test drive. You're done with the physical work. Now for the moment of truth. Start the car. If you disconnected the battery, your radio presets might be gone, and the car might idle a little bit rough for the first minute. This is normal. The computer has been reset and has to relearn its idle settings. It's essentially starting over, but now it has a clean sensor giving it accurate data. If it's not, don't panic yet. The engine should settle down quickly. Does it feel snappier? Does it accelerate better? Does the idle feel stable at stoplights? In the vast majority of cases, if a dirty MAF sensor was the cause of your problems, this cleaning process will have fixed all of those symptoms and turned that light off permanently. Why cleaning works, and why you should do it often. Let's dive a little deeper into why this works so effectively. The core function of the MAF sensor is to determine the air-fuel ratio. This ratio is extremely important. For a gasoline engine, the stoichiometric ratio, the ideal, chemically perfect ratio for complete combustion, is about 14.7 parts of air to 1 part of fuel, 14.7 to 1. When the sensor is dirty, it reports a lower airflow than what's actually entering the engine. The ECU sees that 5 grams/second figure and injects a proportionate amount of fuel. But since the engine is actually pulling in 8 grams/second of air, you end up with a mixture that is too lean, too much air for the amount of fuel. A lean mixture causes all those problems: poor performance, hesitation, and it can actually lead to high combustion temperatures over the long term, which can damage internal engine parts and your catalytic converter. By cleaning the sensor, you restore its ability to accurately measure that airflow. Your engine breathes right, and the ECU sees that all its sensors, the MAF and the O2 sensors, are now reading normal, so it extinguishes the light. This is a piece of maintenance you should really consider doing every year or two, especially if you live in a dusty area or if you have an aftermarket oiled cotton gauze air filter. Those filters, like the famous Can-In, require you to oil them after cleaning, and sometimes that oil can get sucked through the filter element and coat the MAF sensor elements. If you use one of those filters, you'll definitely be doing this cleaning more often. In fact, Some mechanics will recommend a cleaning like this as standard procedure before they even think about replacing the sensor, simply because they know how common this issue is. A new, quality MAF sensor can run you anywhere from $100 to $300 or more, depending on your car. A can of cleaner is maybe 10 bucks. Now, I want to talk about what to do if the cleaning doesn't work. This is important because while cleaning fixes most problems, it doesn't fix all of them. Here, what if the check engine light stays on? If you followed all the steps, let the sensor dry completely, and the check engine light comes back on after a few drive cycles, or the rough idle is still there, here are a few other things you need to consider. First, you need to know the specific code. You can buy a cheap OBD2 scanner for maybe $30, or most auto parts stores will read the code for free. Don't just guess. Knowing the code tells you where to look next. Vacuum leaks. The car's computer bases its fuel calculations on the MAF reading, which measures air before the engine. If there's a crack or a leak in any of the vacuum lines or intake hoses after the MAF sensor, the engine is sucking in unmetered air. This extra air messes up the air-fuel ratio just like a dirty sensor does, and it often throws similar codes. Visually inspect all the rubber hoses and the air intake tube for cracks. O2 sensor failure. The oxygen sensors in your exhaust are what confirm the results of the MAF sensor. If the O2 sensor is old or has failed, it might be sending a bad signal to the ECU, causing it to incorrectly adjust the fuel, which then throws a code. The MAF sensor is truly broken. In a small percentage of cases, the tiny electronics or the heating element inside the sensor can just fail from old age, an electrical surge, or even just repeated heating and cooling cycles. If you've cleaned it thoroughly and the code is definitely for the MAF sensor, usually codes like P0100 to P0104, then you might have to bite the bullet and replace it. When you buy a replacement, make sure you buy a good OEM or quality brand part. Cheap knockoff MAF sensors on Amazon or eBay are notorious for causing more problems than they solve because their readings are often slightly off, even when brand new. Stick with a trusted brand like Bosch, Denso, or Delphi, depending on what your specific car manufacturer uses. But again, the cleaning is always step one. This is why learning a little bit about your car is so valuable. It saves you trips to the shop and helps you diagnose things yourself. Light bulb long-term maintenance tips. To keep that MAF sensor happy and your check engine light off for as long as possible, a couple of maintenance points are key. Change your air filter regularly. This is the biggest defense. The air filter is designed to catch all that dust, dirt, and debris. The dirtier the filter, the more pressure drops across it, and eventually, finer particles can be pulled through and gunk up your sensor. Follow your car manufacturer's recommendation for filter changes, usually every 12,000 to 15,000 miles. Don't cheap out on the air filter. A good quality filter catches more and protects your engine better. Be careful with reusable filters. If you use a reusable cotton gauze filter, be extremely careful about how you oil it. They come with special oil that you spray on after cleaning. Just a light coating is enough. Check your PCV system. Your positive crankcase ventilation (PCV) system is designed to route oil vapors and blow-by gases from the engine back into the intake manifold to be burned off. This is done for emissions control. If your PCV valve is stuck open or clogged, it can allow a lot of oily residue to get into your intake tract. And guess what sits right there to get coated? The MAF sensor. If you notice a lot of oil or moisture in your intake tube, it's worth checking the PCV valve. It's usually a small, inexpensive valve that's easy to replace. Understanding your MAF sensor means understanding a fundamental piece of modern engine management. It is literally your car's primary breathing monitor. Keeping it clean is one of the easiest, most rewarding DIY maintenance tasks you can do to restore lost power, get back better gas mileage, and eliminate the anxiety caused by that flashing orange engine icon on your dashboard. It's a quick win, a cheap fix, and a fantastic way to keep your car running like the day you drove it off the lot. Remember, don't be scared of that light, be smart about it. Start with the simplest, most likely cause, and 9 times out of 10, you'll solve the problem for under 10 bucks in a half hour of your time. This knowledge is what separates the people who spend hundreds at the shop from the people who keep a running tally of the money they save. This is not complex work, it's just careful work. It is simply a matter of knowing the right chemical and being patient with the drying time. The feeling of starting your car and seeing that dashboard totally dark, no light glaring at you, is worth the minimal effort alone. It's about empowering yourself to handle these small, but frustrating, car issues without immediate panic or a massive bill. The MAF sensor cleaning is the perfect example of a high-return, low-effort repair. We've covered its location, the essential materials, that dedicated MAF cleaner, the careful removal process, the non-contact cleaning technique, the crucial 15 to 20-minute drying time, and the reinstallation steps. We also discussed the why, how a dirty sensor leads to a lean condition, triggering the code. Finally, we looked at the alternatives if the light stays on, such as checking for vacuum leaks or a genuinely faulty sensor. Keep your air filter clean, and your sensor will stay clean longer. It all works together. So, let's wrap this up with the most satisfying part of the process. That moment when the engine fires up and, after the initial system check, the check engine light doesn't illuminate. That is the climax. You didn't pay a mechanic 3 hours of labor, you didn't buy a new $200 part you didn't need, and you just saved yourself a ton of hassle and money. You solved a complex diagnostic problem with a can of spray cleaner and 5 small screws. That is automotive independence right there. You are now armed with the knowledge to handle this issue whenever it pops up again, or when it pops up on a friend's car, making you the hero. We went from that terrifying little orange light to a smooth-running engine in less than 30 minutes of work time. Remember the key takeaways. Do not touch the sensor element. Only use specialized MAF sensor cleaner and be patient enough to let it completely dry. A clean MAF sensor means your engine gets the perfect air-fuel mixture, restoring your power, improving your gas mileage, and turning off that warning light for good. It's the easiest way to solve one of the most common car problems out there. Subscribe for more DIY car fixes.